Good afternoon, everyone. We've gone a long way yesterday and today, and I'm happy to, I'm honored actually to convene and facilitate this closing session. And welcome to you all. In this closing session, we wish to build on and consolidate what we have learned during these 2 days. I suspect that we have learned quite a lot about the dynamics of water management, conflict, peace, and cooperation that play out at different levels, at the community level, at the household level, perhaps even at the basin level, at the national level, at the regional and the transboundary level. We've also learned that the linkages between science, policy, and actual implementation on the ground are complex, and sometimes these linkages are not very obvious, or sometimes even there are lags, gaps. It shows that the topic is not so easy that we are addressing. And that is why it is so interesting to be here with so many knowledgeable and diverse people that normally may not come together, but on this occasion are here in one room, and together we can hopefully make a difference. With this session, we would like to inspire and promote initiatives and endeavors where water is a bridge for cooperation rather than for conflict. It has been said many times, and it is actually true. And you know why? Because water is not yet another thing. Water is very special. Actually, it's funny to think that you are 3/4 water, and my brains are also something like 2/3 water. Okay, I hope it stays there. Okay, and we also want to share local, national, regional, and global experiences in addressing water-related conflicts, whereby we focus on water as a catalyst for peace and cooperation. This closing session consists of 3 parts. We first have a keynote, we then have a panel, and then we have the closing remarks. And of course, let's start with the keynote. And the title of the keynote is already on the screen: Water Scarcity in the North of Mali, Perspective from the Youth. And that is, I think, very interesting, that we give the floor to the youth, because the youth has the highest stake in the world, in the future. Not me, because I don't leave a very nice world behind for the youth, unfortunately. So blame me. Okay, so this keynote is from a young person, and I want to introduce him. But before I introduce our keynote, I first introduce his assistant, because our keynote is from Mali. And of course, in Mali, they speak English, but most of the time they speak other languages, many other languages. And I think our keynote, I counted, speaks 7 languages. But of course, there's always one mother language, but fortunately, he's not going to present in his mother language, but in French. And then the assistant to our keynote will translate. The assistant is Laurens Nijsink. He's an anthropologist turned journalist from the Netherlands with a lot of experience in West Africa. And he is going to stand next to our keynote when he gives his presentation. So, Laurens, we are very happy that you are here with us. Now let's turn to our keynote. Our keynote is Abdoul Aziz Al-Husseini. I hope I pronounce your name correctly. He's from Gao, in the north of Mali. He was trained in pedagogy and psychology at the Institute of Teachers Training in Mali, and later he received training in research methodology at an NGO called Voice for Thought. And so they have an academy, the Voice for Thought Academy. And there Abdoul Aziz is also a consultant for the last 4 years, where he is responsible for the research section of this academy in Gao. Abdoul has led several research studies in Gao, including on the living conditions of displaced people and on the migration of young people to Algeria. You know, I just heard that some of these, most of them are guys. You know why they migrate? Because they have to earn some money for the marriage. Correct, eh? Yeah, okay. So that's why they migrate. But then in Algeria, they oftentimes have an illegal status. It's always difficult to imagine how a person can be illegal, but that happens also in my country, unfortunately. He has given training himself in research methodology in this academy, the Voice for Thought Academy, to 243 young women and men in 9 different communities in the Gao region. Abdoul Aziz is a Gen Z guy. I don't even know what it means. I'm older, but that's what everybody says. And he is a keen blogger. He wrote many blogs. I hope he is writing also a blog about this conference. And he has written blogs, for instance, about the conditions of displaced people and about the illegal status of Malian migrants in Algeria. Abdoul Aziz obviously likes writing and writes about any event he finds interesting. So that is a very interesting CV that you have, Abdoul Aziz. I want to invite you to come to the floor together with your assistant, Lawrence, and I invite the meeting to give him a loud applause. Thank you.
Yes. Good afternoon. Welcome. Welcome back. After 2 long days, we hope to energize the room a little bit. After 2 long days, we hope to energize the room a little bit. Wash out the step, huh? Yeah. Okay. We are glad and honored to participate in this conference. I think we learned a lot of new things.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, wait. You get your proper microphone. This is a rich conference. We find it a really rich conference. And we are honored that Abdoul Aziz can hold his keynote today, the final keynote. Abdoul. Yes. Hello. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sincerely honored to be invited at this conference. And special thanks to the initiator of this conference and all the guests here. But before starting, I would like to come back to the introduction of my assistant, Lawrence. You are Lawrence, anthropologist and journalist working in the foundation of Voice for Thought in the Netherlands. You do a lot of things at this small organization, but your main activity is the project you set up with young journalists and bloggers in Chad about polarization.
Yes, and you are Abdoul Aziz from Mali, Gao, to be precisely, and you are giving today's keynote. You're also working for Voice for Thought, as Pieter has said, mainly as a researcher in this large academy project. This project centers on the youth in Mali. And I don't have time to elaborate on this project much, but it might sufficient to say that you are at the same time a product of this project, as well as an actor who makes it possible that it's still running, and now for more than 5 years. At Voice for Thought, we firmly believe in the empowering quality of doing research, and not in the least for the researcher, him or herself. I think that this presentation today will show exactly that. This keynote will take a form of a Q&A, whereby Abdoul Aziz will give all the answers. So, what is this keynote about?
The keynote is all about water scarcity in the north of Mali. That is all the root of everything I will say. This presentation is the result of a research led by Voice for Thought Academy team for the project Water Mobility, together with IHE Delft and some Algerian researchers in 2024. The main goal of the study was to understand the cause of illegal migration of young Malians to Algeria. This presentation is also based on reports I read, and so a video watched within the framework of a research that was done by Voice for Thought Academy team in Bougouni in the south of Mali about gold digging. Furthermore, I live in Gao. As a researcher, I observe the world around me on a daily basis. The senses are the most instrument for a researcher. I went to visit the gold mine in Intaka, close to Gao, and I also have friends among migrants. I know many of them, it is not an isolated group or something like that. Can you?
Yeah, okay. You mentioned already a few names, Abdoul Aziz.
Yeah.
Can you, maybe not everyone knows where Gao.
Gao, but people can see. Maybe it's possible to use this one.
All right.
Gao is in the north of the country, as you can see above, up the map, you can see Gao. And Intaka is just near. It's at 100 kilometers to Gao. It's there that we have a gold mine that is very interesting for young men.
And Bamako?
Bamako is in the south of the country, as you can see, and it is the capital city of Mali. All right?
Okay, thank you so much. We now can place a little bit where the story will play out. So now about the research.
The data of this research revealed that the cause of young Malian the data of this research revealed that the cause of young Malian moving to Algeria is the water scarcity in the north of Mali caused by climate change. In Mali, from 1970 to 1980, except for the years 1974 and the year 1975, there was a big drought that hit the country. There was no pasture for the cattle in the northern part of the country desert because it didn't rain at all. These years, the Tuareg people, who are traditionally herders and live in the north, have been obliged to move around searching for a grazing land for their cattle. This situation drove them to Algeria. It has been the very beginning of Malian migration to Algeria. Recently, from 2000 to 2023, The drought continued and affected the agricultural domain in Mali. It rained less in the country and the variability increased, which is also problematic. Erratic rainfall frustrates farming, especially if it only rains a little. In the north, it rains only in July and August. The Niger River irrigates the plains of the interior delta only from October to November in the north.
A picture.
Yeah. And
What do we see?
you can see here that the Niger River has degrees. So the guy you are seeing, the man you are seeing, wants to grow his farm. But unfortunately, water is very difficult for him. He has just taken water from a stagnated water just beside, and he has using a motor pump and a pipe to wet the earth before growing it. He wants to seed. So it is very difficult for us to find water to wet the growth and the growing rice that we used to do. Yeah. In January, when the water level in the river decreases and agriculture is not possible anymore, the young men illegally migrate to Algeria, where they are employed in the plantations of date palms. In Algeria, the young migrants are well received by the farmers because they need their labor. They need them for their labor. The young migrants from Mali are needed for the Algerian plantations where they are employed. The migrants can stay in nice buildings better than they have at home, where they are received. They think it's better for them than where they come from in Mali. They even profit sometimes from air conditioning that they don't know at home. The migrants from the north speak the same language as the date farmers. The languages they speak is Tamashek and Arabic. So this is an advantage for the migrant of Mali who are from the north of the country. Next to that, they are better treated during the journey than migrants from further south. This is the illegal status I was talking about. The young from the north are well received because not only they share tradition with the people in Algeria, but also they speak the same languages that are spoken in the south of Algeria. Those from the north may use their language as passport at the border because, you know, as they are crossing the boundary illegally, it's very difficult for the migrants, except those who can speak Arabic or Tamashek. That is also spoken by the milice groups in the desert.
So these two groups are really related, the people from the north of Mali and the people from the south of Algeria.
Yeah, they are related by culture, by tradition. They share also the same languages. So this is the advantage for the young Malian from Mali. That's why they don't care moving from the north to the south of Algeria.
Okay, so and then they go there in the dry season, right?
Exactly. They only go there in the dry season when it is not possible to maintain the agricultural activity that they know. At that time, they just prefer to migrate to Algeria.
And when they come back, what happens then?
When they come back, they bring back much money.
Ah.
Yeah, exactly. As Pieter said, both of them, when they want to marry, the only way for them to earn money is to go to Algeria, spending years, maybe 3 to 4 years. They earn money, they save money, and once they are back, they will get married. They will choose or the women they like to marry. Yeah, that's how it is. And those who some prefer to invest in materials, agricultural materials, like motor pumps, and how to say, they prefer invest in motor pumps for the parents, hoping that it will rain the next season. But that's something that is not certain. Sometimes it only rains just twice in the year, or 3 times, not more than 5 times in the north of the country. This year, especially this year, it only rains 3 times in the north from July to August. So that's why some prefer to stay in Algeria and continue saving money than coming back in the country and invest in agricultural domain.
Okay, so there are migrants who go there 1 year, come back, and only can solve a few problems within the family.
Exactly. Some, when they come back, in the north, young people are also supposed to take the compound, the compound families in charge. So when they go to Algeria, they save a part of their salaries. They send a part of the salaries to support family issues. And when they come back too, they have to pay for children's education. They have to continue taking the family in charge.
But there are also people who come back with a lot of money after a few years, and they bring back money or materials to start serious farming in around the north.
Exactly. The more years they spend, the more years the migrants spend in Algeria, the more years, much money they save. The more years they spend, much money they save. So those who spend 7 to 10 years in Algeria, when they come back, they try to copy the Algerian agricultural system in Gao, in the north of the country. And I even know who have succeeded copying the Algerian agricultural system in the desert, where there is no river, where it doesn't even rain. But they have used big, wells. They have dug, wells, tube wells, to irrigate the farms that they have arranged in the desert.
And they bring back knowledge about how to farm.
Exactly. It's the knowledge that they have learned in Algeria, because they are all employed in the plantations. So the years they spent is not only to earn money, but it's also to learn how Algerians are leading agriculture. So when they come back, they are also trying to copy what they have seen in Algeria. But most of them can succeed because they have less means to dig wells, necessary wells. Those who spend many years are only those who can do it. And the 2% I'm talking about, they are those who spend many years in Algeria, and they have succeeded to arrange farms in the desert, and now they are harvesting vegetables, potato, onions, and they have even plants of date plants.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but not everyone goes to Algeria who is living in the north of Mali. What other strategies did you encounter for people to overcome the long dry season?
Some of the young go to the gold mine of Antaka. I told you, I have shown you Antaka. Antaka is a commune of Gao that is located at 100 kilometers to Gao. So some of the young prefer to go to the gold mine of Antaka that is discovered early in 2019. So this gold mine attracted many young people. In 2019, 1 gram of gold was sold in Gao for 30,000 sefa. But now it is sold for 50,000 sefa. So gold is becoming very interesting for the youngs. Due to the high gold price, some gold diggers even don't go back to the farms during the rainy season. As they take much profit from the gold mine, they think it's better to stay at the gold mine than going back to the farms where it is not even certain that it will rain. So they prefer stay at the gold mine. It is not only farmers who dig for gold. I know even a teacher who left his job behind and is now digging for gold.
A teacher?
Yeah, a teacher.
Okay. Well, I don't know much about gold mining, but often they use these chemicals, right? To wash the soil, and that pollutes the environment.
Yeah, this is not the case of the gold mine of Ntaka.
Okay.
At the gold mine of Ntaka, there is no water source. There is no source of water there. They find water to drink. Water is transported from Gao to Ntahaka just for drinking. So they don't have water to wet the grove instead of digging for gold. They can do it. And this is possible only in the south area, the south side. For example, in Doila, Sajola, where they also have gold mine. It's there that people are even dredging for golds in the river Niger. This is not the case of Ntaka.
I also understood that the security situation, especially in the north of Mali, is not so good. Huh? Jihadists fight with the Malian army and vice versa. How should I see this in relation to the problem that you sketched, that young people cannot find a living in agriculture anymore?
The harsh conditions in the north and the difficulty to earn a living in agriculture push some young people to join the jihadists, fortunately. The jihadists in Mali have found a business model who attracts some young men. What we know is that the jihadists collect what is called zakat. They call it zakat. It is a religious tax. Okay? They force villagers to pay the zakat on a yearly basis. Each village has to pay this zakat. The rural areas they are controlling, especially in the north. They force herders have to pay much more zakat. For every cow, they pay the jihadists 1,200 sefa. That is about $2. So especially the herders have to pay much more zakat because they are owners of cows. So for each cow, they have to pay 1,200 sefa. That is $2. But joining the jihadists, that is seen for young. That is seen by some young men as an opportunity. It's also risky. Some die. Once you are in, they don't let you go again. These are the consequences. The young who join jihadism, most of them die in the fights against army. And the other problem is that once you join, it is not possible for you to get back. You stay in. This is the problem. The jihadists have conquered almost all the north of Mali, including the gold mines there. Young women worked in the gold mines alongside men. However, since their mines are captured by jihadists, the young women are forbidden to go to the gold mine by the jihadists. They don't allow young women to go to the gold mine. So the young women stay jobless from January to June. This makes it for families in the north harder to survive.
Okay. But the insecurity in the north doesn't only come from fighting between jihadists and the army, I guess.
Yes, the wells falling dry and the lack of grazing ground caused by the low rainfall results in conflict between herders themselves. Yes, who share the same grazing lands and the same wells. So the first conflict is between herders themselves, who share the same wells and the same grazing lands. For instance, the herders of the village Hamoklaji in the commune Soni Aliber from the region of Gao have been repressed by the herders of neighboring village in Shawaji. And Shawaji is a neighboring village of Hamoklaji. They have been repressed by their neighbors in 2022. They said they would not allow any others in their commune except theirs because they think the grace is not enough for both of them. There is also another conflict due to water scarcity, the conflict between herders and farmers. Yeah. Every single day, a herder and a farmer are in court. Most of the time, the herder's cow eats the farmer's plant or vegetables. A farmer of my village, my own village, became very angry against a herder whose animal ate his stock and hit him with his stick and killed him. The farmer is still in jail. It happened in 2017. In the center of Mali, since 2013 up till now, the herders and the farmers are killing each other because they share the same land for breeding and farming. The herders need the grazing land for the cattle, and the farmers need the same land for farming. As there is a lack of grazing land, the cattle go straight to the farms. We can't even say how many people are killed in this conflict.
Wow, okay. But these are clear examples of how shortage of water, whether it is the lack of rainfall or wells falling dry, is causing tension and worse, violence. Right. Is the shortage of water having any other consequences?
Yes, of course. Because of the shortage of water, people of northern regions harvest the rice on once in the year, in October and November. The rice is harvested only in October and November in the north of the country. This yearly harvest of rice, depending on the rain and the level of the water, the river, can assure food security in the north.
I think we have to cut short.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shall we otherwise go to...
A kilogram of rice that is sold at 500 CFA in October is sold at 750 to 800 CFA from April to September. So the rice is bought in large quantities by commercial buyers from outside the region. This situation creates a food insecurity in the north and oblige the young people who take their compounds families in charge to go either in Algeria or in Intaka to dig for gold or joining the jihadis in order to support the families.
Exactly. Now, can we go to the... I would like to ask you if you have any recommendations to avoid conflict due to water scarcity.
I trust that we contribute to peace by digging wells in dry regions, digging wells in the dry regions, arranging rainwater reservoir in the same regions, building a hydraulic dam in the north, because there is no hydraulic dam in the north of Mali. And that situation is frustrating the population of the north of Mali. The displaced people by terrorism, the country, so-called IDPs living in Gao, need water urgently. They are still coming from the rural areas where terrorism became influent. They install in the city of Gao and face a lack of water. They are obliged to go to the families of Gao to fetch water, losing by this fact dignity. I believe that water initiatives regarding to these displaced people can facilitate their social insertion.
Okay, thank you, Abdoul Aziz.
Thank you very much. That's all.
At the end of the... Okay. 30 seconds. Because at the end, you introduced a problem that is little known, I think. The need for water to serve the demand of growing population of IDPs, people who are fleeing the jihadist occupation. And that is causes humiliation to beg for water. Enough to think about. I would like to thank you, Abdoul.
You're welcome.
I would like to thank the audience for their attention. And if you want to know more about Voice for Thought, the project in Mali, in Chad, please reach out. We are open for new collaborations. If you like to know more about Abdoul Aziz, he is there.
Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.
You're both part of the panel, so please take a seat. And then after this very interesting view on the Sahel, which we have heard little of during this conference, which is eloquently told by our youth member, Abdoul Aziz. I would like now to invite the other members of the panel for the closing session. And I start with Ambassador Fred. And I may call him, now I've got Ambassador Fred, the peace ruler. It's correct, isn't it? Yeah. So Ambassador Fred is a Burundian diplomat, and he is the current senior advisor in the office of the Commissioner for Political Affairs and Peace and Security of the African Union. Is that correct? Yeah, I got it from your Wikipedia lemma. And what is interesting is that Fred's father, Ambassador Fred's father was also a diplomat. That means that Ambassador Fred grew up in all kinds of places, but not in Burundi, where you hail from. Yes. So you were in Quebec City, New York City, Brussels, Bujumbura, and Nantes. And so you three different continents, but now you're here. That's good. And you got a master's in public administration and in a master's in an executive master's in managing peace and security in Africa. So that's very appropriate. And also he has done training in peacekeeping and international security. So you're very well placed to sit here. And in 2014, he was finally appointed in the Republic Burundi as, and now I have to read carefully because for me as an engineer, this is a very difficult title, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary. So give Ambassador Fred a big applause, please. And then I may introduce Violet Matiru, But you already know her because you all, of course, attentively listened to her keynote this morning. And as you have learned from this, from her keynote, actually she is a nice combination of a water expert and a water activist. And that's good to have an activist in the panel next to the ambassador. That's good. Diversity, yes. And she is, as she also told the morning session, that she is the co-founder of the Millennium Community Development Initiative, an NGO. Sorry, not an NGO, a community-based organization, because she will vilify me if I call you an NGO. Community-based organization, and which is concerned with the Ati River. And we all now know what the Ati River is. Through this CBO, she has supported the formation and strengthening of water resource users associations, community forest associations, and organic farmer groups, while promoting networking, knowledge sharing, and collective advocacy on water governance issues through the Ati River Community Network and the African Water Justice Network. Wow. In addition of her community work, she also has served as an independent monitoring and evaluation consultant. Now, we have learned Violet already in the morning, and I'm very happy that she is here now with us in the panel. Give her a big hand. And then, you know, we have tonight, this closing session, we have a panel. Now we go to Anisa Doty. Anisa is a senior researcher at SYKE or SYKE? SYKE. But you write SYKE, SYKE. The Finnish Environment Institute, specializing in water diplomacy and transboundary water governance. She holds a doctorate in social sciences and international politics from the famous Tampere University in Finland, where her research examined the intersections of peace building and development in conflict-affected context. Prior to joining SYKE, she has served, among others, with the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, and she has also worked as an independent consultant and did many other things, but also she was a facilitator and a consultant in supporting the Finnish Ministry of Foreign Affairs and other organizations in research, policy development, and organizational change. Now, Anisa, very happy that you are with us. And then we invite Jelmer van Veen. He's the fresh deputy head of development cooperation of the Netherlands embassy here in Nairobi. So, and we already know that he likes the Turkana Basin, although he is still a bit fresh in Kenya, because before that he came to Kenya, he was in Addis, in Ethiopia, for 10 years. And first he worked with the private sector for an engineering company, installing sewer trunks. Wow. In Addis Ababa. Later, yes, sanitation is of course a topic that sometimes doesn't receive sufficient attention. Subsequently, he joined the Dutch embassy in Addis, where he was in charge of the water portfolio. And actually, he is very proud to state that at this moment, the water portfolio of the embassy of Addis Ababa has grown to become the largest Dutch development portfolio on water for the Netherlands globally. Great job, Jelmer. And okay, as I said, he just returned from a field trip to Lake Turkana, and driving to Lake Turkana, I thought, okay, you take the car and then you drive, but it takes you 2 days to drive. And then you need to be sure that your intake of your motor block is high enough because of the rising levels of the lake. Some of the roads are completely flooded up to a meter at least. And then you don't even know where the road is. So you hope your driver knows where he has to go. Where he was impressed by the interplay between water and peace, which he could feel clearly being felt and seen there. So he was very impressed by this important field trip. Okay, Jelmer lives comfortably in Nairobi with his wife and 2 daughters. And few people know where he is also a jazz pianist. in his free time. And we will close this event with a, oh, yeah, where's the piano? Oh, we forgot to put the piano here. Jelmer, welcome. Big applause. And so I have to make myself a bit scarce, otherwise I'm instead. And finally, I would like to invite our last panelist, Audrey Legat. She is a senior advisor on water governance and international water cooperation of Deltares, which is a knowledge institute in the Netherlands. Her focus is on science policy interface to drive science-based and systemic change in water management and climate adaptation. She has been active in preparing the UN 2023 Water Conference and also the follow-up, with a special focus on water and climate adaptation in cities. And she coordinates currently the involvement of Deltares, of course, in our water peace security program. And before joining Deltares, Audrey was a senior advisor to our Ministry of Water in the Netherlands. And what is the most amazing, she holds 2 master's degrees, and one is from Université Catholique Louvain in Belgium. So that's what is Leuven in English? I have no clue. Okay, but it's a beautiful university, but it's French speaking, eh? Because in Belgium they are, because you're from Belgium, eh? So bilingual, on international relations. This cum laude, meaning very good mark. And then later she did her second master's in my hometown, Wageningen University in the Netherlands, on environmental sciences. So welcome, Audrey, as well. So with this, we have a very nice and rich panel, as you can see. And I would like to kick off with 2 questions to the panel. They may also interrupt each other, but you also may interrupt them, because I'm a bit not so, to only listen to people on stage talking is a bit boring, isn't it? So we have the roaming microphone. Jonathan, yes, it's you. You have the roaming microphone and you run around to anyone who wants to speak when you raise your hand. But there's one rule, he keeps the microphone. That's the deal. I don't know where your mic is, but make sure you have one. Okay, we would like to start with 2 questions. And the questions are, in my view, a bit straightforward. So the first is, can you give a powerful example derived from your own professional experience or practice where water served as a catalyst for peace rather than for conflict? Because we want to end this closing session with on a positive note. An example where served as a positive thing, as a catalyst for peace. And the second question, can water be used to rebuild trust in highly divided or post-conflict communities? If so, what are, in your personal, professional experience, key entry points? So these are not easy questions, but you don't have to answer both. You can choose the easiest one to answer, but you can also choose to answer both. And then I think we start just from, let's say, from left to right. And then if you have the need to speak, just raise your hand and intervene. Because let's make it a dynamic event. And you all have mics, so I hope they work. So I don't need to give you the floor. So Audrey, can I first give you the floor in trying to answer 1 or 2 of the questions, and then we go to Ambassador Fred.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Pieter, and good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, as you can imagine, I would like to mention some cases that we have also, because I do think we have some successful examples also from the Water, Peace and Security program. I have a bit of a challenge because I speak here under the supervision of all our local partners, so I will really do my best also to be correct in how I present the examples. We have many examples. We work especially in 4 countries, but I think Pieter also mentioned that the Sahel region has not been mentioned so much in the last 2 days. So I would like to take some examples also of Mali that we are working. One example I like a lot is in the region of Mopti, where because of the drought, there is some competition between fishermen, but also fishermen that actually kind of recently started with the activity. They were formerly having some boat for tourism, and when the tourism stopped, they started new activities as fishermen, which increased also the number of users, the number of fishers. And that created also some tension at the moment that, the water scarcity is also there. So there's been some dialogues that have been initiated also at the local level to come to some agreements, and especially to provide also a forum where they could come together and discuss also the situation, the use they do of the river. And eventually it led to some concrete examples and to some concrete results also on sharing the resource. I would like to also mention briefly the case of the Lake Turkana. I hope I'm not stealing the example of Jelmer from the Dutch embassy. But also in the Lake Turkana, we have great teams, interdisciplinary teams. Also, we have Wetlands International working there. We have International Alert. And in the last years, they have really put a lot of effort also of bringing communities together to discuss also how do they actually act together, the pastoralists, to join some dialogues to agree on how do they share water during droughts. They've used some tools such as conflict mapping to also come to a common understanding of the situation, and therefore also succeeding to turn the water resource into something that can be a link, that can create a link, and eventually also create some peace building in the region. Do I have time for the second one, or let's wait a little bit? Okay. Okay. Yeah, perfect.
Thank you so very much. First of all, I would like to apologize because to make a presentation at 3 or 4 p.m., I call it the graveyard shift. I know most of you are dozing off, but please indulge us. We're trying our level best. So one good example of actually where water has countries together. I come from the Great Lakes region of Africa, and we have this beautiful Lake Tanganyika, which is shared by Burundi, DRC, Tanzania, and Zambia. And we have been actually involved in the delineation. Did anyone talk about actually how they demarcate boundaries, water boundaries? It's called delineation. And it's very sophisticated process, but we have the countries have agreed to come together and to protect the lake. It's the second most deepest lake after Lake Baikal in the world. So for me, and I was privileged to have been part of the team which brought those countries together through the AU border program that we have not actually mentioned here. The other Great Lakes, the Great Lakes actually is full of Great Lakes, like they say. And I think that yesterday someone talked about Rusumo and the Inga Dam as well. I think I heard someone mentioning it. I think it's Dr. Nyas who kind of mentioned it. So these projects, despite the political tension that exists within our countries, when it comes to building these dams, which will power, which will provide to some of our countries, they come together. Here, in fact, we are supposed to inaugurate the Rusumo Falls, which brings together Rwanda, Burundi, and Tanzania. That's another example. So yeah, so there are many other examples that I can talk about, but in the interest of time, I think I will limit myself to those ones. But something else that brings together communities, and this we don't talk a lot about it, it's fisheries. Fisheries brings a lot communities, but there's some countries who are actually very good at doing fisheries. One of them is South Africa. South Africa, they're very good in terms of fisheries, and they provide expertise actually on how they can use fisheries to not only feed the communities, but also bring the communities together. So those are some of the examples I would like to mention.
Thank you, Ambassador Fred. Violet, it's your turn.
Okay, so for me, let me put my stop clock just so that I don't talk forever. So for me, the reason why with our community-based organization, we ended up working on water issues was by accident. Because initially we were just, different consultants. We were working in an international NGO. We go for UN conferences to, put input from the NGOs and civil society to UN processes. And then we actually asked ourselves, how is that changing our own communities? So when we started our CBO, you hear it has the first name as Millennium. We started it in 2005 when the MDGs were being developed. And we watched the processes, how long those processes take when you're there at the UN. And an S, I keep saying the S in indigenous peoples took days to be negotiated before they added that S. And then you ask yourself, how much did that S change the lives of indigenous peoples? It's up for debate. So that's how we ended up saying, let's come back to our own communities. Because before that, I was doing a lot of evaluating of other people's projects where you are arrogant, you're the one who knows it all because you have a lot of theoretical knowledge. So when we started working, we realized in our own communities, water was the biggest problem issue. Either too much water, flooding fields, a lot of pollution, especially like from sewage, going into the community's land where they were farming. Like one case we dealt with at the beginning was the Nairobi campus, the Kikuyu campus of Nairobi University was releasing its raw sewage onto the community's land and onto a spring where the community would get their drinking water from. And to be very honest, up till today, they still release the sewage. It's not an issue that has been solved. So when we started, we did a lot of advocacy around that. Then we got to a point where we said, we need to also come up with practical solutions. So we applied for funding and we're able to do 2 water projects in the forest, the water forest. And Jonathan, when you go to the forest, you'll see the 225 meters cubed tank that we constructed. We also, drilled a borehole, and we also built a biogas latrine at a busy Dagoretti market, because a lot of the issues with water is that the water that is available is then polluted. So from that, we've slowly built a network of solidarity where we now visit each other. We organize trips for communities to go from Kiambu County. They go to the Indian Ocean and they see the ocean for the very first time. And many of them don't even have proper swimwear, so they are frolicking in their little, dresses. But the kind of connection that we're able to make makes it such that you realize the river connects us. And when people now think of ourselves as the Athi River Community Network, they love it because they say upstream, downstream, we are all connected, and they know each other by name, they visit each other, and it's always an opportunity for them to share about what they're doing to conserve their sub-catchments. So we don't own the issues in other people's sub-catchments, but we help each other. So water for us has been a very poetic connection, and we love to discuss not just our successes, but also our failures, where we struggle to see how do we help each other to address the challenges we are having. So that to me has been, yeah.
Thank you. Please, Anisa.
Thank you. That was a powerful speech. Yeah, I think I'm going to try and combine the two questions actually, but I want to thank for the great questions. And I'll start out by sharing some insights that from the one case that I know best through my doctoral research, which is titled Bringing Peace to Life. It's freely available online if anyone is interested. And at the end of what I'm going to say, I'm going to share with you why the title is Bringing Peace to Life. So the project looked at Finnish bilateral water infrastructure development cooperation with Nepal through the Rural Village Water Resources Management Project. So the first phase of the project began just after the signing of the peace agreement in 2006, after the ending of the Nepalese People's War, and it subsequently ran in 3 phases for 16 years. And my focus and my research interest was on how the water-focused development effort may have either proactively or reactively to the conflict-affected context. So not as a peace project per se, but in how it may have contributed to peace anyway. And my research and later evaluations on the subsequent phases of the program showed that equitable access to water and decision-making about its management can really shift local power dynamics. This happened in this Finnish-Nepali project as well, where women and marginalized groups had the opportunity to participate and become active decision makers and have agency in water committees and making decisions about how their water was managed. So what I found through my research and was also supported by later evaluations is that trust in technical solutions, clear legal frameworks and long-term commitment, as well as inclusive, locally grounded and transparent processes can really make a difference. And when these are combined with transparent management and open communication, proactive communication, it's not enough to have information available, but it has to be shared proactively. When those are combined, water doesn't just solve water-related, or water work doesn't just solve the water-related problems. It can become a quiet, everyday sign of peace and stability, something that I'm quite inspired by Robert McGinty's work, who talks about everyday peace indicators. As a researcher, of course, I want to bring forth a critical perspective, although I'm really proud about the Finnish-Nepali bilateral work that is funded by my country. I think it's important to keep in mind that water doesn't automatically lead to peace and cooperation. And while it opens doors to cooperation, it's not a shortcut. It faces the same political challenges as any conflict resolution or peace building effort. And technical collaboration might seem to be an easy part, but turning that into lasting political dialogue, it's not a sprint, it's more like a marathon. It takes time and patience. And additionally, what is really needed is good design of the program implementation. It requires a solid theory of change of how the water project would aim to support peace building. And last but not least, it requires also consulting with the local communities whose lives these development cooperation projects is supposedly supporting. Ask them what peace means to them. I think in all of our discussions about peace and security in this conference and many other places and policy documents, we often overlook defining what does peace mean. And that's why I'm really inspired by the notion of giving peace local meanings and indigenous definitions. So that's what I wanted to say on the first, and just combining quickly with the point on trust. One of the things that I wanted to say is, which was also shown through my research in the Finnish Nepali water project, is that in thinking about trust in divided and conflict affected settings, it reminds me of something simple we often say, is that action speaks louder than words, and that it's good to keep in mind that trust doesn't begin with grandiose political gestures. It really begins with shared and tangible actions. Thanks.
That was a great one. Thanks a lot. Pieter, you introduced me by saying I traveled through water to get to Lake Turkana, and that was true. That was a memorable experience. And one of the observations there that strikes is really the combination of opportunity and fragility in one place. And it was President Ruto himself who said, Turkana is one of the few lakes in Africa where fish die of old age. We are not fishing enough. There's so much potential to develop, and there is a huge potential in that lake. But if you go a little bit upstream, you enter into Ethiopia, into the Omo-Gibe Basin, and you meet a cascade of dams on the Omo River. And the example that I want to refer to here is actually an activity from the Water, Peace and Security Project itself that has modeled how dam operations in the Omo-Gibe Basin influence the life of pastoralists, because some of their grazing grounds are fed by the Omo River flooding. And the dam operations, of course, interfere with that dynamic. And having only power generation be a leading principle in that dynamic is a cause for conflict. However, by modeling how, with minimal influence on the power generation of those dams, we can adapt dam operations in such a way that we flatten the peak of some of those floods, has real impact into the livelihoods of large pastoralist communities that depend on those floodings. So I thought that was an interesting example of how water in the hands of the right people and with some investments can really be an instrument of peace, as this conference has as a premise. And I was happy with the contributions of the Abdoul Aziz that also remind us why we are here, and that it's very pleasant to have philosophical decisions or discussions in a nice air-conditioned hotel room in Nairobi, but that this is actually a matter of life and death for other people. So I was touched by his speech and also by the realization that this is a very, very important topic for all of us, and that I'm happy to sit here as a representative of the Dutch government and saying that we do commit to supporting this nexus. We have been for a long time, and we will in the future. Thanks.
Thank you, Jelmer.
I think water users, I mean, herders, farmers, and domestic users all know the necessity of water for both sides. The example is taken from the village Amokulaji from the community of Sonyaliber, where to find a solution to the conflict, the leaders of the village have taken the initiative to meet all the population of the village. They have taken a decision to dig new wells for domestic use. Yeah, they have taken the decision to dig new wells for domestic use, and the herders will use the herders use the ancient wells and the new wells that have been dug are used by domestic users. And this has been a solution. It has been a peace building between herders and domestic users who were in conflict who were using the same wells, because the herders needed the wells for watering the cattle, and the women needed the wells for domestic use. So the leaders of the villages have taken a decision to meet everyone, and even the herders, the farmers, the domestic users have contributed to dig new wells for domestic use. And it has been the solution. It has been the peace between herders and domestic use. What I wanted to add.
Excellent. Excellent, Abdulaziz. That's a very concrete and beautiful example. Thank you. Are there any burning issues coming out of the floor? Because we have a large panel, meaning that it takes a bit of time to give everyone the floor, and the time is also ticking. I don't know if anybody would like to make some valuable final comments or conclusions. In the meantime, I'm still scratching my head of a comment that one person of you made yesterday morning, and I forgot who. And you said, "Give me a conflict, and I show you the resource." Who said it? Thank you, Ambassador Fred. But now allow me to add something, because I'm a professor, and I'm a bit arrogant and whatever. Give me a conflict, and I'll show you the youth without perspective. Is that a stupid remark, or is this something that we could take on also in the third phase of the Water Peace Security Program? Is there anybody who would like to make a burning comment? But I only have a few minutes left. I see a few hands here, and okay, first Fred, Ambassador Fred.
No, I would just like to make a suggestion. As I've been listening to the interesting debates here, and I think that one of the things that we need to have, yes, it's good to talk about the positive, but conflict is also part of it. And I would like to challenge, as a key takeaway from this conference, to develop a peace and security architecture for water, which is modeled on the African peace and security architecture. I think my sister here talked about, and I think my brother from Mali as well, they talked about community elders coming together. So perhaps we need to look at creating a panel of the wise of those who would mediate conflict. That's number one. Number two, I think it would be useful to look into having a conflict prevention mechanism, early warnings. I think yesterday we talked a lot about early warning. And I think in many cases, there's early warning systems that are out there. Number three, there needs to be a mechanism of how to respond to immediate conflict, especially when armed conflict erupts. And by the way, we have already existing mechanism. We can look into the African Standby Force, which has reached operational capability. How can it be used to intervene, to stop water? Last but not least, it's the whole cycle of conflict. Maybe there is a need for a peace fund for water issues. We have an already AU peace fund, but usually we deal with political disputes and so on and so forth. But how about it be used also for water disputes? So these are my suggestions going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Fred. Let's see if we can get a nice comment from the floor before I return to the panel.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Am I? Thank you. My name is Ngao, and I have a lot of interest in climate diplomacy. And I would like to reflect on what Ambassador Fred Guterres Gonga from the African Union Commission mentioned yesterday, that if I would use the exact words he uses, show me a dispute and I will show you a natural resource. I sit down here today and reflect on that, and maybe to build it further on that, I would say, show me a dispute and I will show you a scarce resource, and more on the same structure that are absent to address the same dispute. Thank you so much for the thank you so much for the insight that you've shared with us. I am learning a lot, and I look forward to attending more of such events. And yeah, I hope you invite me again tomorrow for such events. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. That's interesting. Simon would like to. Some wise words, Simon.
Yeah. Oh, because of time. Okay. No, it's to invert the triangle, to find ways of maximizing engagement at the local level, at the community level, including dispute resolution mechanisms at that level, instead of waiting until it's at state level, it's often too late. So how do we invert this triangle? And in the water sector, we have some ideas, and we should do that. Even from transboundary, we can also do. We have good examples of excellent, not only dispute resolution, but coexistence and mutual benefit across borders. Look at Karamoja, look at Somalia, look at, even in Turkana, Desenach and Turkana, and there is so much that is happening there that we need to see how do we build on this to prevent having to send in, so to say, security forces. Thanks.
Thank you. I now go back to my panel. I see Violet would like to say something, please. There must be enough mics.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so from our experiences, we need community level institutions. And in the Kenya case, the Water Act of 2002 created water resource users associations. And these RUAs, as we call them, are supposed to be for the whole country, sub-catchments. But unfortunately, these institutions have been undermined, not just by, well, sorry for not being diplomatic, not just by the government, the very government that created them, but by us. Elite and middle class people don't participate in RUAs. I would like to ask Kenyans, how many of you are Kenyans, are members of your respective water resource users associations? How many of you Kenyans? How many of you are members? How many of you Kenyans sitting in this room are members of your community forestry associations? Because we do not participate in these institutions. So the elites in the community grab water resources, they grab forests, they grab whole rivers. The situation I showed you in the morning where the Magana roses had grabbed the river happened because there's no pushback. They are undermining the interest of the community, and all the educated people are busy solving problems in another part of Kenya, giving their expert advice, but in their own community, we are not participating. So that's a challenge to us as Kenyans. The second challenge is to the European Development Cooperation whole system. Europeans, you are players and you have vested interest in our water. You are not neutral arbiters. You're not observers. Your flower farms are at the headwaters of the Wasonyiro River, a river that flows in one of the driest regions of Kenya. That's why you're capturing the water to grow roses to put on your tables. You're using pesticides at the headwaters of our rivers. And if we do not honestly say, what role are we all playing when it comes to our water bodies? We are using the development cooperation framework system is using their power to even influence the policies. That's unfair. It's like cheating at a card game. You're pretending you're just helping, but no, you have vested interest. Can we honestly place our vested interest on the table and negotiate? Negotiate for use of water, negotiate for the pesticides that are being produced in Europe and dumped in our countries, destroying our water systems. If we do not bring honesty to this water discussion, we'll keep going round in circles. The rulers are weak institutionally because nobody is giving them any money. We serve as volunteers. For all the work we do to rehabilitate riparian areas, we're expected to serve as volunteers so that you can have your clean water for your swimming pools. And we, the communities, are saying enough is enough. Come sit with us. Let's all negotiate for these water resources. Let's see how to increase the availability of fresh water. Let's see how to reduce the pollution of our existing water systems. And I'm glad to hear that Jelmer is also coming from the sewerage system, installing sewerage systems, because a lot of our water is just being polluted by sewage because of carelessness, because the professionals are not participating in finding solutions. Sorry for being undiplomatic, but unless we talk about it, we'll always go round in circles.
Violet, thank you very much. And I become a bit smaller when you speak. And I give the floor to Anisa because I saw that she wants to add something.
I just wanted to say amen to that. And thanks for your powerful voice again. And maybe just to add 3 words or 5, do no harm and conflict sensitivity. These are words that are very easily put into all kinds of intervention program plans, project documents, and so on and so forth, be it in investment, like entrepreneurial business side plans or development cooperation. And this is exactly what you're talking about. I don't think you're saying that the European Union or businesses shouldn't do their business or do their cooperation. What you're saying is be accountable for the unintended impact of your work. So instead of just putting the words do no harm and conflict sensitivity into the business plans and the intervention designs, walk the talk. Raise the awareness of what do no harm means, what conflict sensitivity means in practice. Even in this conference, there was a session that had the word conflict sensitivity in it, but we were kind of talking around what conflict sensitivity means. Just a short recap of it. I know many of you know this, but just as a reminder to all of us is that it means good knowledge of the context, doing analysis, do your homework, look at what the context is, what are the dynamics in that context, who are the actors in that context, and then use that information to design your projects and your interventions in an ethical way, in a way that supports building peace and doesn't exacerbate tensions and create new ones. So I was just triggered by your great speech, Violet. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Anisa. We now go to the floor and then we go to Audrey. And James also wants to say something.
Yes, thanks, Professor, for your great facilitation, and also the panelists for your great, experience and wealth in this topic. My question will be, it's more of a comment, but also maybe just to maybe get some feedback for the first panelist and the gentleman with the suit. I'm actually from Lake Turkana, the region that you've mentioned. Currently, we have ongoing conflict from, I mean, the border, the Delta region of where we have Kenya and Ethiopia. We have a conflict on fishing ground, and you have actually mentioned that you are doing a conflict mapping. I'm just maybe wondering the kind of actors you are working with to ensure this. So, who are these the actors that you are working in this region? Thanks.
Thank you very much. We first go to Audrey, and then we go to James.
Okay. I just wanted to react. I think there are some crucial points that are mentioned here. And eventually what I take out also of these 2 days is that it comes back to let's sit together, actually, that it is in the case that you mentioned or in all the examples that have been mentioned. And this morning, someone was also mentioning, like at the moment that we already, can bring these 2 words of water and peace together and really start to understand each other. But it takes a lot of time. And that is also something that we see in the different cases and regions where we work. It's not something that is easy. It's not something that happens over a workshop of 2 hours. It really takes time to understand each other. But eventually, it really comes back to let's sit together. But maybe it's also not that simple, and I think it relates also to what you were saying, Anisa, because what we see happening many times is that people sit together, but to discuss about the situation, the conflict, but without going to the understanding of it. And you mentioned, really try to understand, to design your project, but it's also really designing with the people that are involved in the conflict, because when we talk about conflict, it means we have different perception also of the situation. And I think that really taking the possibility, Jelmer was mentioning also the modeling, you were mentioning other possibilities also for understanding. So let's try to do that. And that's really what I take out of this. And that relates also a lot to what we see happening on the ground. Let's sit together in a way that we try to understand also each other. And that is backed up also by, science, by data, or by local knowledge, etc. But eventually we are all human. So let's try to understand the different approaches and understanding that we have. And I will let the word to James, I think.
Yeah. Our roaming microphone is close to James now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm James Dabalen from Marsabit, but I reside in Limuru. I think after the powerful call to action, as well as the wise words that are being given here, I will say water is life, and we must protect life because it is at stake. And we must put measures, especially when you look at when one takes life, there are measures that are there. So these measures should also apply for people who are denying people the right to have water, people who are poisoning water, and because it is life. So that is what I will add on that. Thank you.
Thank you, James. And this reminds me what you told me about Marsabit, a story that has never reached my mind about a very, very, very severe pollution event, which dates back 50 years and which is still causing death of many people. Okay, roaming Mike, there's one very urgent person who still wants to, Jonathan, he was first, I think. We have to wind up.
Oh, you hold the mic, thanks. Thank you. My name is Chamia Mutuku. I work with the Millennium Water Alliance, which is an alliance of NGOs, educational institutions, and private sector institutions working in the water sector in Kenya and Ethiopia. Now, my key takeaways from this session is one, we have opportunities for use of innovative technology. For example, the modeling on water security to support communities to address issues around conflict on water resources. Secondly, from the last session I attended on financing, I think all these solutions we are talking about cannot be realized unless we have innovative financing mechanisms to sort of sort of nurture the ideas that we have to realize our objectives. Those are my takeaways from the workshop. Thank you.
Okay, and there was one more, and keep it short, and then we make a closing remark, and then I invite Yasir for the closing.
Thank you very much. Yes. My name is Mohamed Abdoul from Somalia. I would like to thank all the wonderful panelists that are speaking about different issues. I would like to say life is peace and peace is life. So let us live in a world without conflict, because dispute results in 3 Ds: death, destruction, and displacement. So let us consider humanity and let us live in a world where all of us are together for peace. Thank you very much.
Okay, with these very wise words, I think we have to thank very much the panel, but I just want to add one more word that I haven't heard very much. It was mentioned a few times in the sessions, and that's care. Let's care for our water resource, and let's care for each other. And that doesn't sound like very scientific, but it is a very important issue, because if we care for something, then we value it. And there's few things that are more valuable than water. Thank you for that, and give the panel a big hand. They're a great resource. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. And then we invite now Yasir Mohamed for closing remarks of this wonderful conference. Thank you. And I don't have to introduce Yasir. Of course, he's a professor at IHE Delft and at the University of Khartoum. And of course, he's an ex-minister of water from Sudan as well. Yasir, and he's the manager of the Water Peace Security Program. Yasir, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Pieter. I mean, it was very exciting closing session, very engaging discussions. So what I'm trying to do now is just to give a kind of quick closing remarks before we go to the snacks. I made few slides with very brief text. If I can see it. Yes, okay, next. Or I can use this one, okay.
Let me fix it for you.
Yeah, okay, next. Can you just press next? Okay, let me begin with thanking a lot of people. Maybe before that, I must say, I'm here representing a big group of partners, what we defined yesterday, 6 partners, IHE, Deltares, Wetland International, the Hague Center for Strategic Studies, World Resources Institute, and International Alert. In fact, it's a big team. Out of these big teams, we had these 3 specific teams who were really working very hard, almost for 1 year, making preparations for this conference. Without their hard work, this conference wouldn't have been possible. The logistical team, the program team, and the scientific team. I must also thank the donors, the Minister of Foreign Affairs from the Netherlands, who funded this project for the last 5 years, including this conference. Thanks extend also to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Finland, who co-sponsored this conference to support the travel of participants from African countries, like coming from Gambia or Mali or Senegal. Without this support, it would have been very difficult to bring all these faces, even Aziz himself. And I also extend our thanks to the speakers, to the moderators, and participants who made this discussion very engaging and interactive during the last 2 days. Special thanks to His Excellency, the former President of Ghana, who made a very inspiring speech yesterday, who also agreed to patron this theme in the future. We're very much honored by that. As you know, the conference theme is very specific. To me, it's very touchy. How water can be a catalyst for peace. For someone like me coming from Sudan, experiencing a lot of instabilities and a lot of fighting, even right now. Does it have some links to water issues? And we had these some themes. We had a number of sessions, in total 21 sessions, 13 opening, closing, and we had 8 sessions where we had the chance to listen to presenters from projects or from researches. But we also had 10 sessions which were really special, where you had a lot of discussions and panel debates. They are coming from, we were also, in fact, surprised to have very high number of participants. Yesterday were 150, today were 140, coming from more than 35 countries. Online, they were also active, between 40 to 70. So for us, this is a lot of diversity. We have seen a lot of issues around the theme of water and peace. The outcome is, during the last 2 days, we have explored how patient engagement, I mean, the story told by Audrey for the inner Niger Delta, that was an engagement for the last 4 years. How this patient engagement with the communities, scientific innovations, data sharing, inclusive governance can accelerate progress on water, peace, and security. To me, that's the most important outcome. We have seen addressing different scales. Violet talked about household, community of the inner Niger Delta, the county of Turkana, the river basin of Omogibi Basin in Ethiopia, the Nile Basin Initiative, Transboundary, the Senegal. So all kind of spatial scale from the small unit up to transboundary level. I like to echo the word of Anisa, is that water-related conflicts is not simple. It's not straightforward. You can solve hydrology, you can build the dams, but defining how water is related to a conflict is also a complex issue. And that is why the water, peace, and security has this integrated approach where we have this patient process of defining the problems. Not we define it, but the stakeholders themselves define the problem. The stakeholders themselves define the solution. And we have seen this kind of challenges has been also reflected, but also success stories has been reflected. Many, many success stories. I don't want to mention many of them, but I remember in Mali, when the communities agreed from where the livestock crossed the Niger River, that already saved a lot of lives. Many lives have been saved. The Fuse Somalia, the flood early warning system in Somalia, they did it there was a flood in 1997. 20,000 people died in Somalia. They had the warning system. They had a similar event in 2022 or 2021. Only 400 people died. So data and innovations can also significantly contribute. We have success stories from Turkana. And here I would like to mention the cross-border dialogue between the fishermen in Ethiopia and the fishermen in Kenya. Benefit sharing from the Sahel. How can we learn from Senegal, for example, to the Nile? And many, many other success stories. So what is next? The discussion in these 2 days and also the statistics from other institutions confirm that water-related conflicts, they are not in a decline. In fact, there is an increasing trend. So there is a real need for this contribution for such kind of programs. not only our programs, but all kind of contributions to transform these water-related conflicts into peace and cooperation. And I would like to echo the word of Pieter. He mentioned it as care, but can be also the commitment from everyone of us. I mean, everyone in the room, but everyone also outside the room, being individuals, institutions, organizations. We are planning to publish conference proceedings of these extended abstracts and the opening remarks in the coming few weeks with support of our colleagues. And I must also say that the WPS partners is heavily working now, intensively working into preparation for a follow-up phase. As we heard from Jelmer, already getting a green light for support, but the teams are really already working on to what kind of proposal to be developed. And I believe the input from this conference is very timely for that proposals. But this endeavor is open for partners, new donors also to come in. And for that, if you have any questions or requests, you can talk to any one of the WPS teams, maybe during the snacks, or you can send your question or request to this email, info@waterpeacesecurity.org. And this is my final note. As we leave, let us carry forward the spirit of collaborations that define these 2 days, because transforming water conflict into peace and cooperation above all is a collective endeavor. Thank you very much.